Okay, so hold off on your conversation for a moment. Okay, some more things that we need to draw on here before we can actually begin our value applications. We broke off this space here, and there's actually a little bit of a line that kind of goes across right here that corresponds with these areas too. And so this is broken into half. Ladies, gentlemen, please hold off your conversations. Thank you. All right, so we've made that, so this is looking a little bit more proper in this area. Now there is a light that is right in this area, and it takes up a pretty good portion of the area. It's pretty huge actually, but there's a little light, and if you're not a real good circle maker, I really use a guess and check on that as well. So you see people who make these little dashed lines and this sort of a thing when they're doing drawings. What they're doing is they're actually doing a guess and check as they're creating the thing. And so they make a little mark and they look at it, say, does that look right? And then they make the next little mark. Does that look right? Okay, that looks right. Oh, that's not right. I'm going to go back a little bit. And I'm going to go down a little lower. And so when you see people doing that, they're using a minute version of guess and check along the way. That looks like this one I want a little bit further out. I like the other one better. So that needed to go right here. So that's those little teeny driving lights. That's a cool thing. Now, here's the deal. The bumper in and of itself has a little bit of an angle to it like this. So that's a little detail correction. Goes like that. And technically, if you look at it, it's a little narrower right here because it is wrapping around, and then it gets a little bigger. And then it does the same thing on this side here, is it has the little angles on it like that. I'm going to do a little bit of eraser action right there. And it is actually a little more tapered on this side because it's wrapping around the fender. Now here's the deal as well. The fender, the bumper in of itself, this chrome piece that we have here, that we were trying to get drawn somewhat right, we have to divide this in half. So I needed mine just a little thicker. So we have that going there. Now I need to put a line that's kind of going down the middle, just kind of as a place marker. Because the upper half of the bumper is a little bit lighter than the bottom half. There's actually a white line going down the middle of the bumper, isn't there? As you guys look at it. Okay, so that's kind of some cool deals. All right, what else do we need in here? We need to work on maybe the interior of the cab here, and it's a little bit of an arc here, right, on the inside, and it goes till, I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna say it goes till about right here, and that kind of comes up here and then rotates. So it's a rounded effect. And so I'm going to take this one. I'm looking at this distance from here to here and from here to here, and I'm trying to match it. And then this is going to come up and be somewhat rounded like that. And then the top part is kind of arced on those. This looks like it's a little sharp here still. Well, that's kind of cool. Now there's also some seats in there, if I can see them. Now some of this looks like, when I'm looking at it here, they're the seats that are on the inside here, but I kind of covered them up with my lines, so they're kind of hard to see with those, and so I'm going to kind of guess where they are too. And I'm just going to put in a little bit of a rectangle like this that's going to overlap this side a little bit. And the seat is kind of is a rectangle, and so I need the same thing on this side, and it needs to go in and be maybe about there. No, further, huh? Maybe about there. So the seats are just little rectangles that stick up a little bit. Now I'd like to put in a little bit more of the hood because there's some features that are on the hood that are going to be subtle, but we kind of need to have them there. Now we established this dot right here. Remember way back when we established this dot that was kind of in the middle? That was kind of where this had this hood scoop thing going on. I'm going to draw, you got to draw this real light because this is all done with values. But if you can draw lines where to stop and start and on those, it'll be a little bit more helpful on that. And so there is kind of a line that kind of goes out from that mark towards the bumper, right? We talked about that. And then on this other side, there's a little bit that sticks out this way. So I'm going to draw this in hard line so you guys can see it. But please draw it in soft. If you go too hard, it's going to be hard to erase it. And it goes to about here, right? About the middle of the seat. This one over here, about the middle of the seat. So if I'm right here, that's the middle of the seat, and so it goes about that far. This is the middle of the seat about there. And then, as we go up from it, there's spots that are a little flatter right here. And you'll notice that there's a couple of different things that happen. There's one there. And there's a gap right in the center, like that. There's actually two lines that are there. There's this sort of a thing happening where there's kind of a white spot right there in the middle, huh? Like that. And then there's the back part right here between that. Holy smokes, Mr. White, that's so much little detail. It's true, it's all true. And that comes around there. Now this part here, there's a little bit of some structural lines that kind of go like that. This is going to help me on where to put my values. And then there is kind of a divider right in the middle, like that. Wow, that was pretty complicated. That wasn't bad. Those are just straight lines. And so now we have the stuff on the hood. That's pretty cool. So let's do, there's a couple lines we also need, and that's the hood of the car. And so I'm guessing it's going to start right about here. And it comes down just almost straight down till it hits the top of the fender. And then it kind of angles out even more straight. And it's going to come down about to here. If we break this into maybe thirds or fourths, I'm going to guess right here. And that's where the hood of the car is. On that side. And this one you don't see as much, okay? So I'm not going to put much of a thing there. Now this one started about this distance here. I'm going to start it about the same distance there. It's going to start there. It's going to drop down a little bit. It's going to hit the fender right here, the top of that fender. And then it's going to start out going a little bit more straight. Not completely straight. Kind of a reflection. And then it's going to have a little bit of a rounded spot to it like this. But I don't have to worry about this because it's kind of blended in there. But that is where we're going to have the hood of the car. That was cool. This is kind of extra. I don't really need that in there anymore. Don't really need this over here anymore either. What about the headlights? I did this drawing one year and I completely forgot the headlights. So let's put the headlights in. And so where do they begin? It looks to me, as I'm looking at this picture here, this is about where the headlights are, right? And so if I'm comparing to the little driving lights, the headlights are about where the middle of the driving lights are. So I'm going to say that the headlight is going to be starting right about here, about the middle. And I'm going to go about the middle on this one. And it's just up a little bit. The headlight in and of itself comes right down to the bumper. Now, on the headlight itself, it angles back a little bit. When things go back in space, they kind of go back together. If the headlight was infinitely long, go back like that. And so this one has a little bit of an angle to it. And then the placement of the other side is pretty darn close to this post right here. It's just to the inside of it. And so the headlighting of itself is going to be probably about right here. And there's a little bit of space between them. You don't see the bottom of the headlight very much. It's kind of blended in. So I'm going to go over here, right? And this is about the middle of the driving light. And it looks like it's kind of pointing back towards that direction. And that comes up. A little bit rounded. I'm going to keep these consistently about the same height. So this headlight, bring it over here. And so that's about the height I want for that one. Looks like I could probably bring this one down a little bit more, huh? And then just about the middle to the end of that little post, down that little chrome post. And this is a little bit more rounded. That's cool. Ooh. These are a little rounded too. That can be up just a little higher. Oh, here's an easy one for you guys. Right back over here, you can see the rear bumper or the rear fender. And so if you come over just a little bit from the cab and go up along the same direction like that for just a little bit, and then, so parallel to this one, and then have one coming down like this, that's parallel to these, that'd be way cool. That's the rear fender. And then there's one on this side too that kind of comes up here like this. So this and this are parallel. And then I got to make sure we're about the same height here. And then come down here where this angle and this angle are the same. Now I got a place for my rear wheels to go. Over here, there's a rear view mirror. Yep, you're right, it is. And so I think it starts a little bit, as far as the seats go, I'm looking at my drawing here, and the bottom of the rear view of this rear view mirror is about even with this part right here, but it's off to the side enough. And so I'm just going to draw a little rectangle right here. Okay, a little rectangle. That's how we're going to start. Like that. And then the center of it is not in the middle. As far as how there's a little circle right down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to turn that into a bowed or rounded type of a rectangle. Like your old style television screen. Then the post kind of comes up from behind this bumper and comes up like that. Cool thing about this is radiating out to all four corners. Now the angle that I have on this one is a little bit more than the angle on the original one. That's because I also made that rear fender a little bigger. That's my fault. I did that. You can put a rear view mirror here. Also a rectangle. So right in the middle, I'm just going to put a rectangle that is slightly angled right in the middle. So I'm looking here between the seats. And I'm creating a rectangle that's just at a slight angle. Like that. And then once again, turn it into kind of a rounded rectangle. This one's almost trapezoidal in its nature. Once I establish where it is, and then this can come down straight. Now the little emblem that is here, that's two crossed flags, is what that is. And so if we take what that's going to do, I'm draw the big version. And so if you take and you draw an X like this in that area, and those are the handles of the flags. And then you draw this come here, this one here, and a line, and then this loops back a little bit, this loops down a little bit, and then it comes out and there's a flag like that. And then over here it does the same thing. And then this loops back here and then comes out like that. And so that's what that little emblem is. That's the Corvette emblem, the crossed flags. So if you can draw a micro version of that one, and then there's some shading in here. It's like a checkered flag sort of a thing on one of them. Anyway, so that's what's in for the little emblem that is right here. And so if I draw a little X right in the middle, this is a little big, a lot big. So draw an X to start it out, and then just a little bit of a juxtaposed flag thingy like that. A little bit of a thing here. If you're curious, if you want to get it exactly right, Google Corvette emblem, and then you can get it more or less exactly right. But for my purposes, this is good enough for me for right now. At least I've accounted for it. So I think we have everything. Do we draw everything? We got complex things, and if we look at it as an overall drawing, I mean, that's pretty detailed for an outline drawing, being able to build it from a couple of rectangles. And that's what our goal is. That's what we were working on.